I'm back. Welcome to Lima, Peru, and welcome to this new series dedicated to the history of Peru. Well, we're going to be talking today about a hot topic. I love the controversial themes. Today, we're going to discuss about lies, myths created around the Incas. The Inca civilization, as we know it now, is probably one of the most famous American civilizations we have in the world, no, that is known. Hola Marilyn, thank you. Thanks for coming, my friend. So the Incas, which are not just the only civilization of Peru that worth attention. We have so many other amazing cultures that were located here in territory that nowadays we call Peru. Um, Also, because are so popular, like Incas are popular around the world, there have been many made up things created in the period of understanding this society that now are taken as facts. So today we're going to talk about some of those very interesting, you know, half truths or lies around the Incas. So before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Vanessa Vasquez. I am your Lima City tour guide. I am an official tour guide, a licensed certified tour guide here in Lima, Peru. I've been guiding tour groups in my city and my country for several years, since 2006, a year when I became a tour guide, and also a year when I realized, well, my love, my passion for this career, this job. During the pandemic, I started to do virtual tours. So if you are here seeing this virtual tour and it's the first time you came to my channel, well, thank you so much. Let me give you a warm welcome. Also, another interesting thing is that this event that now is live on YouTube, it is not going to be uploaded in my YouTube channel, but it's going to be uploaded in a different platform I'm using called Patreon. Patreon is a site where you can support content creators with a monthly donation. If you want to see replays of other shows and my upcoming live events, you can do it there on Patreon. There are different forms, amounts to support my channel there. So, well, we are about to begin this event right now, and we're going to discuss these facts. I have created, of course, a PowerPoint to share with you, and we're going to talk about probably the most famous of those, like myths. Now we know some of them are entire, like mistaken facts about the Incas. If you have a question, by the way, you can use the chat. We have an interactive chat here that you can use to ask me things. You can also, comment about the event. If you have a question that is not connected with this topic, no worries. At the end of this event, I will be addressing your questions. So just to check if the chat is okay, if someone can send anything here in the chat, that would be lovely. Well, I know Marilyn posted hello, so I'm happy the chat is so far, so good. It's working good. So let's begin with our presentation. So just give me a second. I'm going to put a play on this. And okay, so let's start. We're going to discuss today this theme. Thank you, Marilyn. I hope also the transmission is being smooth and is okay, is strong. If you have or you see any interruption of the connection, just let me know so maybe I can do something and I can fix it a little bit. Okay, so myths and lies about the Incas. The intention of this series of live events is to learn more about the Andean civilization. There are many historians and archaeologists and specialists in pre-Hispanic history that now are inclined to call the period before the coming of the conquistadors, the Spanish conquistadors, to the Americas, to the Hispanic Americas, the at the South American section, the Andean civilization. No? Because to be honest, no, if we talk about Peru, the concept of Peru is way too new, like in comparison to the history of this territory. If we talk about Peru to the Incas, they would have no idea about what you are talking about. No, the same happens if you were able to talk to the Paracas people about, let's say, 2,000 years ago. You know, like what is Peru? They will not understand that, right? So we're going now to board this topic, and let's begin also. Let me just move a little bit higher the camera so you can see this screen better. So let's begin with, of course, the beginning, the origin of the Incas. Today we're talking about the Incas, some mistaken sort of like facts about the Incas that most people take, you know, like as, you know, written in stone. And even in my country, there are many people that don't know about the facts we're going to discuss about today, about you know, the authenticity of those facts. So the origin of the Incas. In the Peruvian schools, we are taught about the origin of the Incas. I remember when I was in school, in the section of history, well, the origin of the Incas was addressed with the legend of Manco Cápac and Mama Ocllo. Manco Cápac and Mama Ocllo, here you can see a representation of them both, are known as the first Sapa Inca, the first Incas, the first governors of the Incan dynasty. And of course, there is a part of the history of the Incas that is not very clear. It's more like a legend part. But now archaeologists are trying to understand how much of the legend is true and how much is not. So I remember I learned the legend of Manco Cápac and Mama Ocllo as the origin of this culture. The legend, I will read the section I have put here for you. The legend says that according to the Inca myth of its origin, the sun, the godson, sent two of his children, Manco Cápac and Mama Ocllo, to bring order and civilization to humankind. The pair emerged from Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca is located nowadays in the territory that is the border between Bolivia and Peru. The Peruvian side is called Puno. Okay, so, well, this origin mentions that they emerge in the lake, and from there they walk in direction to what nowadays is the city of Cusco, creating the first Inca trail on their way, right? So the legend, you know, mentions the origin of the Incas being in Puno. Although for a long time it was believed that the Incas originated, of course, in Cusco, and, you know, it was a very, very strange, you know, like a thing, no? The idea of the origin of the Incas being local from Cusco was taken for a long time as a way also of local pride. But now we know, thanks to the archaeology, that in a way the legend, you know, could have been, you know, like right. Why? Because it is believed that the Incas were genetically connected with the Tiahuanaco people. Tiahuanaco is a culture that is from the high plateau. It is also located in Bolivia and Peru. Oh, they spread over widely. And well, the decadence of Tiahuanaco has almost a coincidence with the emerging of the Incas. Also, according to the archaeological data, these Quechuan immigrants, so what we know as the Incas, arrived to Cusco Valley at the beginning of the 12th century and founded the city-state of Cusco there, but they came from the Titicaca area, right? So the Incas were not really originated in Cusco. And this is one of the important facts, myths also, that some people, still believe about the Incas. The Incas came from outside Cusco. They came from the South Andes, from the high plateau, and most likely they were Tiahuanaco people, okay? So another interesting fact that is not true, and this will also work very well, this part of the presentation for people who have been already in Cusco. If you haven't, no worries. You can also see a lot of beautiful videos about Cusco, and in particular, I recommend you to see documentaries about, for example, the stone of the 12 angles. So you can see that this beautiful stone here, which has been always attributed to the Incas, right? It's one of the prides also of tour guides when they show you, Cusco, and they do walking tours in the historic center. They come to show you the wall that is attributed to the palace of Inca Roca, one of the 14 Incans of this culture. Well, in fact, it is now believed that that wall that was supposed to be an Incan palace that later was taken by the Spanish was not Inca. So it was not built by the Incas, right? And most of the architecture that we have in the historic center of Cusco is attributed to the Incas. No? But to be honest, and especially after the period of Pachacutec, one of the greatest Incas of our history, and also known as the big reformer of the Incan culture, the expansionist Pachacutec. So it was believed for long that most of the Incan architecture in Cusco was made by Pachacutec or after Pachacutec. But now we know that there are in the city of Cusco traces of pre-Incan architecture. And probably, one of these traces of pre-Incan presence there is this wall, which is attributed to a period called Luque period. So also you can see in a segment of the, of this slideshow, this section that is highlighted, by the way, is not the way how the wall looks like in the colors. This is actually the way how the stone naturally looks like. But what do you see here? It has been highlighted for you to see, or to to try to guess, the form, the shape there. Does anyone can tell me what you see in this section of the wall? If you can, please comment also, and later we're going also to answer. But what you see in this section is very interesting, because we know that many of the Incan or even pre-Incan walls we have here in Cusco, in the imperial city of Peru, were not just randomly like stones put there, place here and there. They were trying to give shapes, to draw with the stone blocks. And Marilyn is commenting puma. Well, yes, it's what most people see is a puma. And of course, we don't know exactly, if this was the intention, right? But we all can see the puma there. Hola, Caitlin. Hello, hello. I hope you are seeing the images correctly, dear. Thanks for joining, by the way. Sorry to be late. Looks like a corn. Well, they are segments also, which intentionally they have some similarity with cold turners, but also some other specialists believe this could be the same effect like when we see stars, like when we are looking up to the skies, we can sometimes like form like shapes with the with our imagination. Or the same happens with clouds, for example. We can give shapes to the clouds. So well, it's a really interesting thing, that one. So we will continue now, and what I want to also mention about this temple, by the way, is that also another thing in debate is if this place was a palace. We were talking about the possibility of the site where the stone of 12 angles was the palace of Inca Roca. Now it's believed that it was not originally a palace. It was not a palace. It was an ushnu. So what is an ushnu? I'm showing you here a couple of images to portray how an ushnu looks like, and is a step, sort of like a pyramid, in some cases, or a platform also completely flat on top, that was used for ceremonies during the Incan times. But we know also that were ushnus prior to the Incas. Pachacutec, the great architect of Cusco. We were also talking about Pachacutec and the possibility of him being the greatest, architects of during the Incan period. But once again, many archaeologists nowadays believe that what we attribute to Pachacutec, or his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, were in reality like pre-Pachacutec, right? So this Incan king, of course that the word king is also in debate, because we didn't have like the exact figures as kings in Europe. The Spanish translated basically the word Inca as king, but it was not really the fact. But they couldn't understand also another form of ruling, right? So this governor governed these territories that were called back then the Tawantinsuyo, around the year 1438. But it's very, very hard to believe that one person, or just like few governors after him, were able to create all, right, in the period called the Imperial Cusco. Sites attributed to Pachacutec, for example, are, of course, Machu Picchu, we have Rachi, we have Sacsayhuaman, we have Coricancha, Ollantaytambo, Vilcashuaman, and many more, right? By the way, Pachacutec was known as one of the greatest, Incas, right? And the word Pachacutec means reformer of the world, right? So this is how also Cusco city looked like before the coming of the conquistadors. I like to share this recreation. Well, it is one of the possible recreations of Cusco before the coming of the conquistadors. Unfortunately, we don't have really much certainty, because there was a lot of damage done, right? But what you see there also, I like this image, because what you see there is in the zone where nowadays is the main square of Cusco. You don't see a fountain there. That idea of fountains in the middle of the plazas is Spanish, and it was a creation made after the conquest. But instead, you see an ushnu. Can you see that? In the center of the plaza of Cusco, the main square of Cusco, or also known as Weapon Square, Plaza de Armas de Cusco, there used to be an ushnu, a place for ceremonies. So what about the word Inca? What does Inca mean? For us, for the world, Inca means two things. The first one is the society that the Spanish met, the ruling society that the Spanish met when they came here in the 16th century. And also it means by default king, because the Spanish usually refer to the king as Inca, right? But current investigations about the word Inca say that, well, Inca probably didn't mean king. And we can also go to a chronicle from Chronist Felipe Guamán Poma de Ayala. By the way, his chronicle, which was composed by over 1,200 pages, and 400 of them were drawings, was discovered in the year 1908. And later in the 1940s investigated in Copenhagen. So seems that this chronist created a chronicle. He was an indigenous man, by the way. He sent this chronicle to the King of Spain, but that chronicle never arrived to him. So his chronicle is very interesting because also he was indigenous. He knew very well Quechua. He spoke in Quechua and as well Spanish. He was Catholic, but also he debated a lot about what the clergymen and the church did to the indigenous here. That's why he did a chronicle. He wanted to inform the king. He believed it was his sort of like his job to do something like that, to inform the king of the atrocities the indigenous were suffering. And in one of his chronicles, he mentions something about the word Inca, right? First of all, he mentions that to be ordered king, you had to be called Capac Apo Inca, right? So Inca didn't mean king per se. You needed to be ordered Capac Apo Inca. So we have a composition of three words. Capac will be the one who orders, the one who rules. Apo or Apu is related with the mountains, is related with the spirit, the protector spirit, and Inca. Also, Inca is not the only word used. Okay. Also, this chronicle mentions that there were low people, so low referring not short people, low people of the low classes that could be also called Inca. Like, for example, Chilche Inca, which means potterer. Acos Inca, which means cheater. Warok Inca, which means liar. Mayo Inca, which means the ones that gives a false testimony, etc. So there were different kinds of Incas. Of course, he was being a little bit like of good sense of humor when he was using these words, but he was just trying to clarify that the word Inca really didn't mean king, and there were people who could be also called Inca. So something interesting about the word Inca, thanks to anthropologists, we are able also to understand this, because Quechua is really a live language. So we still have people that use Quechua as their only language. And if we investigate, for example, the origin of the word Inca, we have to go to another word that sounds very similar, that is enja. Enja. So enja, which is a word that was, still used by shepherds of llamas and alpacas in the high Andes of Peru, means immaterial energy or energy that generates well-being. So that is Inca or Enja, right? So well, it's interesting to see that this idea of the word Inca is also very mistaken. Like, Inca didn't mean king in the pre-Hispanic times. Remember, the Inca had to be ordered, the Inca king, well, Capac Apo Inca. So a translation could be, the one who handles energy also, no, Inca, right? And here we have another interesting part, which is related with, the word Quechua, the language people speak in the Andes. Now we say people of the Andes of Peru speak, among some other languages, Quechua, right? In the times of the Tahuantinsuyo, the times that we call the Inca period, Quechua was not, the name of the language the people used. It was instead Runasimi, And Runa in Quechua means people, could be man or human person. And Simi is related with the language, could be also tongue, right? So a way to translate this will be the language of people, Runasimi. Quechua is a word used in the colonial period. Hola, Charity. Thanks for coming. Thank you. We are also discussing lots of the myths and lies about the Incas. Of course, the Incas didn't create these lies. The lies were created later, and those are sort of like a mistaken, like a half-truths, like things that were taken as true by the passing of the time, right? So the appearance of the Incas, how the Incas look like. When we think about the appearance of the Incas, we generally think on someone that looks, I think I have an image over here, more like this, right? Long hair person, right? A long hair person with a beautiful crown, probably of gold, and a lot of golden, elements. But the Chronicle of Guamán Poma de Ayala mentions, this is one of the chronicles I like to also go back always, mentions, and especially in the drawings, we can see the detail put in this part of the appearance of the Inca, that the Sapa Inca or the Capac Apo Inca didn't have long hair. Well, so the Inca king, and that's also something very interesting, because in the famous festival of the sun that we just finished last month, the Inti Raimi, the actor who portrays the Inca has long hair, no? And of course, it's believed by most people that attend to that festival that we are doing, like recreation, like exact recreation of everything. But no, by the way, at the end of this event, I will ask you please to go to here in YouTube, in my community section. I have a poll for the next event I'm going to be hosting, and you can choose one of those options. One of the options I was thinking is, like lies and myths about the Inti Raimi, things that are mistaken that nowadays we take like for true, and we portray that in the Inti Raimi festival in Cusco, right? So, well, long story short, you can see here that the person that is being represented in the first image by Felipe Guamán Poma de Ayala, the 9th Inca, Pachacutec, the big transformer, he is not represented with long hair. He has short hair. He has short hair, right? So let me show you. So he has short hair. So how is that? And the person that I have chosen next here, he is a Chasqui. He's taking messages. He's an athlete almost, and the mailman almost, because he carries messages. He carries quipus also. He has long hair. So the common people, the common men use long hair, and that we know well by the chronicles. But the Inca, the Sapa Inca, the king, didn't use long hair, right? So, and here I have an image of the Inca who was probably the only one who had long hair. So from the 14 known Incas we had in our history, there are also some other chronicles that mention that we had more Incas, more kings. When I use now the word Inca, of course, is more like king, as we all know. You already know that Inca was not really meaning king, but anyways. So the only governor of that period that probably had long hair was Atahualpa. Atahualpa was the king or the ruler of these Incas who was killed by the Spanish, okay, by Francisco Pizarro, right? So why he had long hair? The history says that he lost one ear in one fight he had with his brother Atahualpa. By the way, the rulers during the Inca periods, they had big ears, big earrings were inserted in their ears. They deformed, they stretched their earlobes. It was a sense of pride to have long, big ears. The Spanish called them orejones. Oreja is ear, orejon is big ear person. So the ruler had big ears, beautiful big earrings. And losing one of those was sort of like losing a bit of, like the prestige. So probably that's why Atahualpa used long hair. So the Inca flag, amigos, the Inca flag. So was there any flag in the Incan times? This is also another interesting question. The flag you're seeing in the upper part over here, right, is nowadays known as the flag of Cusco. By the way, the flag of Cusco was recently, a couple of years ago, changed. And now, if you've been in Cusco, you've been to Peru, and you saw the rainbow flag of Cusco, well, we no longer use that rainbow flag, which is this one. We use this one. This one has an element, is the sun. We're going to talk about that symbol in a moment. But that flag of Cusco, also known as the flag of the Tawantinsuyo, it is not the flag of the Tawantinsuyo. Tawantinsuyo was the Incan, empire, right? Well, it was really created in the year 1978 by a Cuscanian radio called Radio Tawantinsuyo. So it is very interesting because when you ask to people from even from Cusco, well, tour guides, of course, they know about this, but people from Cusco, they have forgotten totally about this, and they say, oh, this is the flag of, let's say, of the Incas, the flag of Tawantinsuyo territory. So, which is not really fact. And there are people that still, of course, are here from the year 1978 that remember about the creation of this flag. By the way, I just put next to the flag of Cusco, the traditional one without the symbol of the sun, the pride flag, the LGBTQ flag. They look alike, but they are not exactly the same. Notice that in the flag of Cusco, we have 7 colors, and in the LGBTQ flag, we have 6 colors. Do you see the difference, amigos? Do you see the difference? It's very interesting. Well, the reason why in recent times, in this last few years, the flag of Cusco, because now it's officially the flag of Cusco, this one of 7 colors, was modified and was added this element of the sun, the representation of the sun there, is because many people were confused, and many people believe in Cusco, instead of the flag of the city, we had the pride flag, the LGBTQ flag. So that's the reason, just to correct a little bit of the perception people had about the flag. So regarding to the issue of the flag, and also to know if there was any flag in the Incan times. So we're trying to address if there was a flag in the Incan times. The Incas did not use flags, but banners, which is something different. A flag is a cloth that waves in the wind. A banner is something more like solid, more rigid. A flag represents a state. A banner represents a person. In the Inca society, everyone was at the service of the god king, or Sapa Inca. So everybody fought for him. Okay. And the representation of the sun, if you were wondering about what is that symbol now in the flag of Cusco, well, is this symbol. This is the Placa Echenique. Echenique plaque is a disc that is taken as sort of like a representation of the Inti, the sun, right? An Incan representation, right? Just rapidly, a little revision about this plaque. It was given as a present to a president, a Peruvian president who traveled to Cusco in the year 1863, President Jose Rufino Echenique, and it was given, the story says, by a family of descendants, direct descendants of Incas. So they gave this plaque to the president. Although it looks very big in the picture, the plaque is tiny. It is just 13 centimeters so wide. So it's very small, and it's made mainly on gold, right? But, well, now let's talk about the origin of this plaque, you know. Specialists believe that the plaque Echenique is not Inca. No, it is not Inca. Why? Because of the shape that has been represented there. And there are two theories about this plaque. Of course, people in Cusco will this is their pride, so, well, you know, it's understandable that they don't accept these theories that I'm telling you. That's why I said myths and lies. So some of them are for sure lies, and some of them are myths, or are, you know, like not we are not very certain about this. So let me tell you the two theories that say this is not a, let's say, original Incan piece. Oh, thanks for coming, Shermanator. Thank you. So number one, the element represented there, this sort of like god, deity, like sun, you know, with the smile of Puma, right? Looks more like a pucara representation. Pucara is also from the high plateau, is from Puno. So it doesn't look much of what's the Inca style. Inca style was different. So maybe, you know, that's why it is not, you know, like Incan. It could be pre-Incan, or another option, another theory says that this is not even Incan or pre-Incan. This is more Republican, that this was just maybe not a made-up thing, like, but it was sort of like a souvenir or something special made, given to the king, to the president, Echenique, and later was taken as, you know, pre-Hispanic. So, well, the story of the piece is very interesting. For a long time was in Chile. Also, they went outside South America. So if you want to learn more about this piece, don't forget to also look on videos, on documentaries on YouTube. Writing in the Incan time. Sorry, I'm extending a little bit more from the 30 minutes I thought this lecture will take. I hope you are okay with that. Thanks a lot also for coming, to my friends who are here. Charity is asking something. What did the Inca believe in about the sun? Oh, we're going to talk about that, Charity. Thanks for letting me know. That's going to be, I think, in the next image. So Inca writing. Thanks, by the way, Charity, for your question. The Incas were illiterate. Most, you know, like traditional, let's say, specialists mentioned that the Incas were illiterate because there was not written system in the pre-Hispanic times. But now there are some new positions about this topic that says that the Incas did have a writing system. And there are two elements that are being used now to investigate, in particular, this theme. Quipus and tocapus. Oh, thank you, Shaminator. Yes, that's right. See, the pre-Hispanic people, artists were amazing. I'm going to be dedicating more events to this topic in particular of art. So, well, we have quipus. Quipu is known as the knotted system. And they are knots in cords that are hanging from a main one. So let me read what I have put here. Used for different tasks such as accountability and recording historic events. Many authors say this was a writing system. So there were ideas, there were complex compositions, that were put there using knots. So don't ask me how, because we don't know exactly. Like, there are some theories about this, but we are not very sure. And the other option is the tocapu. The tocapus are way more complex. And while quipus were used by common people, tocapus were just used by the elite. So it's a type of lost writing system used by the nobility. It utilizes drawings and complex designs made on fabrics, and they were used for communication. So here we have a couple of images about them. Let me just put the camera a little bit higher. So you can see here a quipu and you can see a tocapu. So the quipus were knots on cords. Probably it is more like a fact that it was used in accountability, but also they are historic quipus, so far we know from the chronicles of the Spanish. And we have also, this other element, the tocapus, which were more complex to be made because you had to be an expert weaver. And also these little symbols you see here, so the symbols separated, they would look like this, right? So the combination of symbols could refer to people, to names, to even sounds also. Maybe some of them were like, for example, in Chinese writing, you have the ideograms, so could be something like that. But unfortunately, we don't have a Rosetta Stone that helps us to understand this. I saw a question coming. They use lapices. Well, in the pre-Hispanic times, we didn't have any type of, sort of like a form to draw, like in like pens, for example, but we use other forms of creating art. Most of the art was volumetric, and it was in ceramic, for example, or carvings, like that. Oh yeah, Charity. Sorry, I don't know if it was a joke or not. So, Chakana. What is the Chakana or pata pata? Oh, Chakana is it's known as the cross of the Incas, right? And this is a Chakana. So when you go to sort of like, let's say, Inca market in Cusco, here in Lima, and you want this symbol, which we usually use for hanging from the neck, for example, everybody will say, oh, this is a Chakana, right? We know it as Chakana. But now we know that this element, this design, this symbol, was not called Chakana in the pre-Hispanic times. It was called pata pata, also tacapata, and it referred to Mother Earth. And the logic around this is that in the pre-Hispanic times, men didn't consider the earth to be flat completely. I'm not saying that they believed the earth was circular, that is in debate, but they knew that earth was not flat because they live in the Andes. So you sometimes start from a valley and you go up to the mountains, and then you go to the other side to trade with communities that are on the other side of the Andes, right? And then you have to also go back again, down and go up to return home. So the idea of these steps you see here is connected also with the idea of an earth not being flat. Also, some people consider this to be, a representation of Mother Earth, okay? So these are different chacanas. You can also call them patapatas now in different societies in Peru. No? And we have here also what is a chacana in reality. So chacana means bridge in Quechua. And the word chacana is actually used in a document in the colonial times by a chronicler, Joan Santa Cruz Pachacutec. He was an indigenous chronicle, and he uses the word chacana. Look at this, chacana, chacana. But he's not referring to the Andean cross that you see that is used like an amulet that people sell you in Inca markets. Instead, he's using an actual cross. He is representing probably the Cruz del Sur or the Southern Cross, right? So why he's using the word bridge or chacana to refer to this constellation? Well, because the pre-Hispanic people believe the sky was a reflection of what was here on earth. And they believe in a very important river, the one that runs along the Sacred Valley, being reflected in the sky. So what you see, of course, is the Milky Way there, but they believe that was a reflection of the magical river they had here, the Vilcamayo, for example. So that river, and that's also the idea of duality. You have one here, you have one above, right? So that river has stars. If you make connections between the stars that are in different parts of that, river in the sky, you are using really bridges or chacana. You are connecting them. So that's the reason why the word chacana is being used here. So it's a mistake to say that this is a chacana. A chacana is more, what you are seeing here, bridge, okay? There were three laws in the pre-Hispanic times that now are taken as fact that were Incan laws. And now we know, thanks to many investigations, that these laws were not Incan. They were imposed in the colonial period. And it was a way also of domination and control of the indigenous. These three laws are Amasua, don't steal, Amayuya, don't lie, and Amakeya, don't be lazy. Right? So these laws were created during the colonial times. Most specialists agree in this. But we still believe, even we are told in school, that these laws were Incan. And let's go also to the Incan trilogy and the Incan duality. We are coming almost to the last part of this event. By the way, if you want to see a replay of this event, it is not going to be posted on YouTube on here. Instead, it's going to be posted in my Patreon. My Patreon is a way also to support this channel, support me creating content like this, and you have all kinds of options to support there, from $2 to more per month. So it's really little, but the idea is that you can also help me to create more events. So if you want to see a replay of the whole event, well, please support me on Patreon. You can also donate on PayPal. So muchas gracias. So the Incan trilogy and the Incan duality. Which one was more important, the trilogy or the duality? By the way, the Incan trilogy was associated also by the Spanish with their own, view of the world. They believe in the heaven, the hell, and also the world where we live. So the Incan trilogy, which nowadays we take, of course, as granted, that is from that period, is in debate by some specialists if it's really something pre-Hispanic or not. And that's because, for example, in Mexico, also there is a belief of the three worlds. And remember that the Spanish went to Mexico first, and then they came here to this territory. Right? For example, in Mexico, the Totonacas use the following words to refer to heaven, earth, and the world. Ak, Gapum, Tiyat, and Kalinin. Also, that is, from Central America, from North America, the belief of the three worlds. But in Peru, we have also that perception that there are three worlds. I also, believe in the idea of the three worlds, the Hanan Pacha, Kai Pacha, and Uku Pacha. Hanan is upper world, Kai Pacha is this world, and Uku Pacha is the underworld. But there are specialists debating in about this, and I definitely will always be updating you with all the information. It was also shocking for me to see, especially saying that maybe this was not really, Incan belief. Probably what was really very important for the Incas was the duality. The duality was, Incas and pre-Incas was more like a fact, because you need, for procreation and fertilization, you need, two. You need male and female, right? And here is a representation in simplified of the idea of duality. Did the Incas knew the iron? Well, the Incas didn't use iron like the Europeans did, because we didn't have any kilns to melt iron until the coming of the conquistadors. But indirectly, they knew iron. How? Because they selected to work using stones. For example, for hammering, for breaking, stones, you need harder stones to do that. So they selected stones that now we know have a higher composition of iron. Like, for example, hematite. They use hematite hammers that have up to 70% of iron in their composition, right? And we have the legend of Inkarry also. This is a legend that was created, so far we know, in the colonial period. Is a legend that many people believe was pre-Hispanic, but now we know it is not. And it started also with the murder of Atahualpa, King Atahualpa. Atahualpa was killed. We don't know exactly where his body was left, but the legend says that he was beheaded, and his body, his limbs were chopped off, and his parts were sent to different parts of the country, of the territory, of the empire. So that there will be a time in the future when, Inkarry, which from the name also we can deduce this is more a colonial story, because Inca and Ri is for rey or king. Inca Rey or King Inca, right? So that's Spanish, right? So Inkarry will wake up and will also form again as a human, because he's looking for his body parts, and he's going to avenge also the Incas, the indigenous. Okay, so it is believed that the legend of Inkarry is pre-Hispanic, but now we know that is of creation from after the conquest of the Spanish, and also with the idea of vengeance, right? So Pachacutec was the greatest Inca. Well, we know that Pachacutec, the 9th Inca of our history, was indeed a great Inca. He was, the one who renovated the world, right? But we know that his son, Tupac Inca Yupanqui, which is, in fewer occasions mentioned, was probably even greater than his father. And that is because, and I have, by the way, a video posted on YouTube about this theme, he, and we know this from accounts, from history, from specialists, he was able to travel, to sail to the Polynesia. And he discovered islands in the Polynesia. He also was able to visit Easter Islands, leaving also traces of Incan architecture on Easter Island, the territory island that nowadays belongs to Chile, and later he returned to Peru. That was when he was a prince, not yet a king. So imagine all the things he did after, when he was ordered a king, right? So, Pachacutec was a great Inca, but his son was also I think, even greater because he was able to conquer territories far, far away from South America. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you, my friends, for coming today. I will also check, I remember there is a question. So about the sun. Charity asked about the sun. I think I was not able to, I just passed very fast about that slideshow about the representation of Joan Santa Cruz Pachacutec. In his representation also, he shows, that probably sun and moon were anthropomorphous representations. So the sun for the Incas was not a disc, the sun for the Incas was a person, right? And it's very interesting to imagine that. So a complete different perspective of the sun. The sun was very important. The Incas considered themselves to be the children of the sun. They worshiped the sun wherever they went. They worshiped the sun, for example, the Dawn, the Punchao. They had many temples oriented to the sunrise. And also to the setting of the sun. So the sun was, everything for them. Sun and moon also form duality. And without that marriage, we wouldn't be here. So that is a little bit of also the fundament of the idea of duality that was probably more important than the trilogy or trinity of the Incas. Well, I hope you enjoyed this event. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any question, please let me know. I see Caitlin also posting something. Thank you so much for asking. Will the images be clear on Patreon? I think so. Because on Patreon, this is sort of like a recording that is done a little bit better. Sometimes the problem is the internet connection that don't allow the images to be very clear, but on Patreon is going to be better. So if you're already supporting me on Patreon, thank you so much. By the way, before we finish, I want to show you something interesting here. So on my YouTube channel, you already know my YouTube channel because you are seeing this event from YouTube. In the section community, I have let me show you a poll. Let me show you the poll. So please help me to decide which event you would like to have next July 19th. It's going to be a from home event. You can vote. Please help me voting. If you don't vote, I don't know what you want to see or hear me discussing about. We have number one, myths and lies about the Inti Raymi, the modern Inti Raymi, the sun festival of Cusco, common history of Peru and Ecuador, and omissions in Peruvian history. Okay, so please vote. Help me deciding which event we're going to be having. And well, thank you so much. Muchas gracias, Marilyn. Oh, I'm so happy you are, you are also reading probably more books than I am, because I am having not really much time now, but I have also a lot of notes made for these events since many months ago. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation and hope to see you very soon. Thank you so much if you came in the middle of the event and you want to see the whole event. These live events, which are very special, I curate the content a lot, are going to be available on Patreon to see as replays. I have also another one there already posted, and the upcoming ones will be on Patreon. So you have to do a donation to access to Patreon. You have to subscribe, but there are different modes, so you will not find it too expensive. Or you can also donate using PayPal if you want to support this channel. Okay, so thank you so much. See you soon. See you next July 19th. I have uploaded also for this Saturday a video about a night tour that's going to be open on my YouTube channel. So it's premiering there. So please give it a look and have a lovely, lovely, lovely day and upcoming days also this week. See you. Bye-bye. Best to you. Ciao, ciao. Thank you.